I want to talk about two clubs that have nothing to do with Arsenal right now. Two clubs that have surprised me in this early stages of the transfer window. I'm, of course, talking about Newcastle United Football Club and Aston Villa. Now, both of these clubs I have a lot of respect for, not just because historically they've done well, not just because they're a club that have had no rivalry to me, but I actually do believe that they're two clubs that should be up and coming, that should be looking to go to that next level. The amount of money that they've spent and the amount of money that they have still to spend, with the quality of manager they have and the quality of their squad, I really do believe that they should be looking towards Chelsea, Arsenal, and the rest and saying, how close can we get to them? And if I'm honest with you, I've been disappointed with both of these clubs, and I'll tell you why. Let's start with Newcastle. Newcastle, I really, truly believed would be in a title race this season. Now, I'm not saying they could have won it. I'm not saying they would have got anywhere near winning it, but certainly around February, March time, I would have thought this season, with a couple more additions and keeping their best players, they would have had an absolute opportunity to be in within a shot of a title race. Now, when you get to March, start to get excited. April, May, it can quickly go wrong, as Arsenal have found over the last few years. But what I will say is that you can get to that stage with a few good signings and a bit of a squad. Now, Newcastle have always had, in my opinion, a very good 11 for a couple of years now. When you look at some of the players that are being linked away from the club, that's no coincidence, to nothing but a compliment to Newcastle about how good they've individually been and as a team under Eddie Howe. Finally winning a trophy, I'm really happy for them. I think the fan base have gone through some right dross, if I'm honest, over the last 2 decades with Mike Ashley and with Steve Bruce and with some of the championship stuff that they had to see. I've always liked Newcastle as a fan base. I think it's a brilliant city. I love their stadium. It's a great away day. And I must say, I always wanted to see them do well. But I've been disappointed with them this start of this summer. Now, I appreciate there's still a long way to go. And I appreciate also that you're going to be looking potentially at the window in maybe a different light come the time that it shuts. But Newcastle have to keep hold of their top players. We don't know if they're going to keep hold of Alexander Isak. It's certainly looking that way at the moment. But I wouldn't say that that is dead in the water for a move. Anthony Gordon, we still don't know what's happening with him. There's been links and rumours for some time about him leaving the club and going to Liverpool. And it seems now that the players they're trying to bring in at Newcastle at the moment, for whatever reason, aren't interested in going there. Now, maybe I've underappreciated what Newcastle looks like and what it means to some of the players. And maybe when Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool and City come knocking, they're just more interested in them. But Manchester United and Spurs being chosen at the moment ahead of Newcastle, I find astounding, because I don't know what Tottenham you're going to get. And I certainly don't know the future of Manchester United and what that looks like. Now, people will say, well, they're bigger clubs than Newcastle, so it's obvious, right? But aren't Newcastle trying to go to that level? Because who Newcastle are being linked with, I'm quite shocked that they're not interested in at least going and taking a look at what it might be like over there. The players they're linked with, they've signed Elanga, good signing, but it's from Forest. It's not like it's going to take them to the next level. I do think he's a good right winger, and I do think he's a good winger that can play on both sides, and one that I think definitely is an upgrade on Jacob Murphy. I'm not sure how much of a huge upgrade he is on Anthony Gordon and Harvey Barnes, but I think the season he's just had proves that he's definitely had a better season. So the expectation is now that he comes in and takes Newcastle to the next level. Keeping Isak is fantastic, but who are they going to bring in as their backup? I don't know, because it isn't João Pedro. He went to Chelsea. Liam Delap went to Chelsea. Hugo Ekitike has gone to Liverpool. Who do Newcastle go and get? Are they going to end up with somebody like a Mateta? I don't think that he'll go and sit on the bench. He's playing every game at Crystal Palace. Who are they going to go and get? People have taken the mick out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin going there, but that's the sort of signing I can see being more realistic, if I'm honest, to back up Alexander Isak. Ekitike doesn't want to come and sit on the bench. That's why all of them have chosen teams that they're going to play at. João Pedro knows he's going to get game time at Chelsea over Newcastle. So I think what Newcastle have found themselves in striker-wise is a Harry Kane and Spurs situation. Tottenham never got a good backup striker. They just used Son there if Harry Kane ever got injured. I think Isak's in that scenario now. Anybody they want, they're going to be like, am I playing? No, Isak's our striker. I'm not coming then. So it's not going to be a brilliant signing they're going to get. They're going to have to get a backup. They're going to have to bring in someone that's young, that's potentially upcoming, that could be a player in a few years' time that might be good. But they're going to have to really take a risk here and get their scouting and recruitment right. But the players that I thought Newcastle were going to be linked with, they haven't been able to get. When I see them linked with Liam Delap, I was one who said that would actually be good. I know he was playing at Ipswich, but I actually think he'd be good to come off the bench for Newcastle. But he chose Chelsea. João Pedro, I thought that would have been a phenomenal signing for Newcastle, but he chose Chelsea. Newcastle will eat with Kudus and Mbeumo, but never really got anywhere because they were already more interested in going to Manchester United and Spurs. And Newcastle fans might go, we never bidded. Well, you went for Elanga. Who would you rather have? Elanga, Kudus, or Mbeumo? Well, Elanga would be the last of the three that I'd want out of those. And I truly believed that Newcastle would have been favourites to get all three of those. But it doesn't seem the case. Mark Guehi, they were linked with for so long now. And it looks like he's chosen Liverpool. The goalkeeper, I thought they were going to go all out for the Lille goalkeeper, Chevalier. Maybe they would go for Diogo Costa at Porto. Maybe they'd be in for AC Milan's goalkeeper, Michael Maignan. Or maybe they try and do something mad and go for Aston Villa's Emi Martinez. But it doesn't look like they want any of them. They're going for James Trafford, the Burnley goalkeeper of the year from the Championship. A goalkeeper who looks half decent, but nowhere near ready to take someone to a title. Manchester City now look like they're going to come in and take them and that player away from Newcastle. So what's going on at Newcastle United? Why can't they have that pull? Why can't they bring these players in? Their window has been really poor. They've had a couple of bad weeks, Newcastle, and I've got to say it, I like them. I like their players. I love Tonali. I love Bruno G. I love Joelinton. I think Isak's unreal. Gordon and Barnes have had a lot of time for him. I'm a big fan of Sven Botman. I think they've got two of the best young fullbacks in the league in Livramento and Lewis Hall. But they need a squad. Their first 11 can beat anyone on their day. They've proven that. But they need a squad to go for a title. And that's what I think their next rung of the ladder is. Not just keep getting top four. Go and see if you can get yourself into a title alongside winning a trophy. See if you can go into the deep stages of the Champions League competition. You're not going to do that with 11 or 12 players. That's why they need 5 or 6 coming in. They need to go and get a partner for Botman. They need a goalkeeper. They need a right winger. They need a backup striker. They need a creative midfielder. They're going to need some cover at fullback. That's 5 or 6 players that clearly need to come in at Newcastle. And then they talk about getting a 12, 13, 14 man squad to an 18, 19 man squad, and they can go and compete on all 4 competitions. And that's what I think Newcastle should be doing for the next step. Now, people might be listening going, mate, you're overrated Newcastle. They ain't that team. They're still little. They're still got to give it 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years until they're winning titles. Maybe I've overrated it or overhyped it. But I truly thought that Newcastle were going to go next level. And they might do. They might do. They might be slow and just taking their time. But Eddie Howe's comments would worry me about Isak. I'm not sure what's happening with Anthony Gordon. And I don't really look like any of the players that are coming in at Newcastle are scaring anyone. Certainly Trafford and Elanga don't. Let me tell you that. So Newcastle, long way to go. Now let's move to Aston Villa. I'm shocked, if I'm honest. I appreciate that there's PSR rumours. I appreciate that they're looking at selling their women's team, which I now believe is done, so that they can no longer be a problem with PSR. But to have absolutely no rumours other than players leaving, Emi Martinez with a potential 21 million release clause to Manchester United, that would worry me. He's a brilliant goalkeeper in the Premier League. He's been brilliant for Aston Villa. Then there's the links with Watkins, who, let's be real, has been linked with Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester United over the last 2 or 3 weeks. That would worry me because he's been guaranteeing them 15 to 20 Premier League goals in the last 2 to 3 seasons. That would worry me. And of course, the other player leaving that would worry me is Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers is one of the X-factor players in that Aston Villa side. Versatile, can play in a number of positions, out wide, in the middle, attacking mid, attacking 8. Looks like he can drive on the football. He really reminds me of a Jude Bellingham type where he just gets on that ball and is an engine up and down. He can absolutely bully midfields. He did to us. Villa Park away last season. Yeah, we won 2-0. Ollie Watkins missed 2 absolute sitters. But Morgan Rogers was the best player on the pitch. That day and that day onwards, I started looking at him. And I can see why England are picking him. I can see why Villa want to keep hold of him. And I can see why Chelsea and other clubs, along as Arsenal, have looked and inquired about how available he is. Because I think for £80 million over, that is a lot of money. But if it's going on Morgan Rogers at his age, who's going to be able to take a team to the next level, I think it's money well spent. Now, I must say, I don't think he walks into the first teams of Chelsea or Arsenal because the midfield for Chelsea and Arsenal looks set. Arsenal looks set at Zubimendi, Rice and Odegaard. And Chelsea's looks set at the moment with Caicedo, Enzo and Palmer, or of course Lavia, Caicedo and Enzo. So for me, I don't think that Morgan Rogers is the guy, unless he's going to be playing left wing for Arsenal or Chelsea, that would walk into the first team. I think he'd be an unbelievable signing for either side though. So for me, I look at the scenario right now of Newcastle and Villa, who I think at the moment are fighting for the top 6. alongside the likes of City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea. You've got Newcastle and Villa. That's the top six for me in my mind right now. The only way that Villa and Newcastle are going to cement their place in that top six and fight for that top four or ahead of it is by strengthening their squad. And at the moment, there's no rumour to suggest that they're going to do that. Villa is even more worrying than Newcastle, because at least Newcastle have gone for some players and potentially they've rejected them, or they've just not been interested, or they've preferred a move to a bigger club in a Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc. When you look at what Villa are doing, they're not even linked with anyone. And I wonder how much money they actually do have to spend at Aston Villa. I think they rely hell on Unai Emery, a lot on Unai Emery, who I think is a very good manager, by the way. I think if they was to keep hold of their core, I'd still put Villa in and around where they finished last season. If they were to lose Ollie Watkins and Morgan Rogers and Emi Martinez, I would say that's three of their best players. I like Konza and I like Tielemans to add to that. But other than that, they haven't got anybody in that Villa team that scares me other than those players. And I'm not even sure they scare me to that nth degree. But Villa have had a good record against Arsenal in the last few seasons. If they don't start adding to that, they honestly will be left behind. And that worries me if I'm a Newcastle or an Aston Villa fan. But look, I'll end on this. Long way to go. A lot can change in a few days or weeks. The window's still open and there's a long way to go, of course, with signing and selling players. Maybe they will surprise me. But right now, the way I'm looking at, I think the top four is pretty much sealed. And if the Premier League season was to kick off, I truly believe Liverpool, City, Arsenal and Chelsea are going to get into that top four quite comfortably again. Make sure you do me a favor, hit the like button and subscribe. We're on our way to 50k, people, which is amazing. Make sure you scan the QR code for Match Bingo and get that downloaded. Credit to your account and enjoy playing it. If you win, let me know. We're out of here. We'll see you on the next one. Big up.